building has been celebrated, particularly for its picturesque qualities, for 250 years now. It's a very beautiful place, set in a very beautiful surrounding, so you've got to be very conscious of this when you decide what level of intervention to make. But in this case, if we don't make an intervention, we lose the most celebrated view of Tintern Abbey. And if we respect the sort of craftsmanship of the past and apply the same level of care and skill in the present, it seems to me a perfectly legitimate way of carrying this great building forward into the future. If we do nothing, it will be lost relatively quickly.
We've learned that this particular joint has got a bed of lime mortar in it, and that bed of lime mortar is pretty well neat. There's virtually no sand in it, and so that lime mortar was put down in 1300.
It's a marvellous piece of Gothic architecture, but I'm afraid it's in very poor condition and we need to take action urgently. This is made of sandstone, which in the ground forms horizontal beds. And stone is much more, lasts much longer if you can build it and keep those beds level, because the weight of the stone above compresses the stone beneath. To achieve these great long stones needed to this tracery, the medieval masons turned it round through 90 degrees, so the beds run vertically. And the pressure from stone above tends to cause that stone to separate and laminate. And so large pieces, with time, begin to fall away and create a significant danger.
If you look at the acid rainfall charts for the Wye Valley for about, well, the early part of the 20th century, it was very heavy in this area.
You're constantly faced with agents and pressures of decay. And in the past, they were very reluctant to replace dressed stonework. They did some extraordinary structural repairs in this building, but they were very reluctant to replace the carved stonework. We've got to a point now where the condition of that stone means that in some places we will have to replace stone and use modern techniques to bind the older stone back together again. Otherwise, we're in danger of losing significant parts of the window.
The challenge, I think, for these guys now is not a structural one necessarily, but to try and keep as much of this architectural detail as possible so that people coming in the future can still understand it, the artistic form. I think that's their biggest challenge, because you can see it's all spalling off. I don't know how they're going to solve the problem now.
This is the way we go about making decisions. We work with large-scale drawings. This is the external face of the west window. And then we have to use the scaffold that we have up here to make individual decisions about every stone. It's very different repairing a window to building it. In the Middle Ages, you build it up by laying one stone on top of the other, dropping them one on top of the other in a logical manner. So it's very much more challenging to conserve than it is to build new. And this is a masterpiece of late 13th century masoncraft, and we have to respect the skills of the men who worked there before, and you do that by understanding the methods and principles they adopted.
You look at the ocular window we were doing, and it looks like there's a good few stones in there that make up that tracery pattern. But when you look at it closer, you look at where the joints are, and we're going to put the joints in the same place where the old stonework is. It actually works out just 6 stones, big stones, mind, you know. I mean, I measured up the window where the old stone was, and you sort of take many measurements of the best parts you can find, the best preserved parts, that will give you the most truest measurement. And you sort of go from there. There's a lot of trial and error, a lot of toing and throwing and that, but eventually, well, we think we've got to more or less the right dimensions of it.
The value of Tintern Abbey for everyone who comes here is the fact that it's a survival, that it's the dissolution of the monasteries didn't destroy it. But in the process of trying to preserve it, you inevitably lose a great deal. And this window here we've got in this rather worn piece of almost skeletal structure. If we can preserve it, we can prove the other side. You can see the new and you can see the old. You can see how damaged it was and why it was necessary to replace it.